What's good? What's good? Welcome, 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 welcome. What's good? What's good with the family? Listen, welcome to the greatest podcast on your social media. It's that time again for the Black and the Bold podcast. Here, you already know how it goes down. You're going to hear some thought provoking, some gut wrenching, yes, sometimes even some tear jerking content because you know your boy is just that funny and that good, that talented. You just can't get enough. But listen, I'm the bold. But we're gonna get this thing started right. We got a new one for you. What's going on, brother Black? How you doing?
Bro, what's going on? Let me move this mic a little bit closer. My bad. Yeah, man, it's all good, man. We're on the weekend. This is a new trip right here now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We just
man.
started out with something a little new, little new. What's going on with you,
Yeah,
man? How you doing this wonderful Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m.?
I know, right? We're doing quite well. Doing quite well. The weather's working out for a nice, moderate December. Waiting on winter to come. But yeah, man, we're doing well, man. Just got back in from some of the weekly shopping and doing quite well. But just the intro. This is the Black on this side, Dwayne Johnson, and I think we got a couple of guests that we're gonna bring on also to round this Lions Den talk, out. And
Yeah, man.
but no, this is Dwayne Johnson, and from Valdosta, Georgia, live here, and also graduate from Lowndes High, along with the illustrious Georgia Institute of Technology, Yellow Jackets representing, and also by way of DC, master's degree in management with specialization in project management. So other than that, man, just basically the claim to fame is that while we were, off in our engineering management programs in DC, my wife and I, we built our foundation for our business to be fledgling entrepreneurs here in Valdosta, Georgia, through our estimates, through properties. And so, with real estate, that has allowed us to become financially independent and basically retire early. In our late 30s, we went ahead and made the move about 6 years ago this time. And, pretty much we are sustained through our properties, through real estate. And along with that, we grew our business around that, which is property management services, along with managing other people's renovations and projects. And, that has flourished into even contracts at this point. So, we've been pretty fortunate, but basically our skill set. Hats off to my wife. She's a phenomenal manager, also. So, with that, we are definitely just kind of winging that life of financially independence here. So that's how it is on our end, bro. What's going on with you?
Hey, man. Same old, man. Glad to be back on again. Yeah, Eddie Mack. I guess you can call me a native of Valdosta. Lowndes High graduate, UCF graduate, healthcare administration, public administration, masters. Got an opportunity to dig in a little bit of corporate America, and currently now in talent acquisition, and also launching our own legacy, which is called E3 Legacy Group, which is me and my son, and hopefully his son can latch on to this legacy that we're beginning. We're starting out with a few trades, and then we're gonna try to blow this thing up and really make a huge impact. So we got a lot of things, a lot of legs to E3 Legacy Group, a lot of legs to it. So it's just still building, man. Still trying to make things happen, but definitely father of two. And just looking for things to happen, man. Trying to make some moves. You know how it is in this crazy economy, this crazy world we live in. We got to be busy about our business. You know how that goes. So I'm just happy, man. Happy we got an opportunity to make a shift in the business, man. This is a new thing for us within the Black and the Bold, and so now we have decided to delve into creating a platform for just our brothers. I know, man. If I had an opportunity to drop a beat, to drop a bomb, to have a standing ovation, it would definitely be at that moment because we're trying to recreate an opportunity for us to talk like men, to
Yeah.
discuss opportunities, discuss current events, social issues, family lifestyle, sports every now and then, politics, relationships, lifestyle things that spirituality. We're going to talk about everything because I think it's an opportunity. I think now is the best time for us men to try to, kind of find our tribe. And this is an opportunity for us to reach out and find our tribe as well. So if you know someone, someone who is looking for a group of men they can chat to, definitely invite them on over. If you're on, like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Also, make sure you start a watch party. Let somebody else know that you have another space right on your social media feed where you can connect with some individuals and have some real meaningful conversations. But definitely, hey, my brother, we have some very talented people that joined us on our inaugural day of here at the Lions Den. But we're gonna really get down and dirty. We have our OG. You all know him. He's an avid follower. He's an avid participator in the Black and the Bold every Tuesday night at 8:30. Our brother, Mr. Thomas McIntyre, we call him OG. Come on the camera, man. We want to introduce you. Want you to introduce yourself and let our group know that we do know some good people. We got a pretty big circle around us. So go ahead and share yourself. Introduce yourself, man, so we can get started.
How's everybody doing? OG, original gangster here. I'm not gonna get. It's gonna sound like I'm really getting in depth to some of my life's travels, but I'm gonna skip stuff. So I'm from Harlem, born and raised in Harlem. I was born in the '60s, so I kind of got into politics just because of the era I was born into. My grandfather was first African American school board member in Harlem in the '70s. I still have a second cousin that's head of the NAACP in Staten Island. And back then, because of civil rights and everything that was going on, everybody in the family kind of kept us all politically aware of what was going on. So fast forward into the '80s, I can remember when there was no crack in Harlem. And then, so I lived through the crack era, 1988. I decided to join the military. So that's how I ended up here in Valdosta. And I stayed here after 1993 because I did not want to go back to Harlem. It was a lot easier to stay alive here. I'll just put it like that, So, so after the Air Force, from '88 to '93, had some ups and downs. I was actually homeless for about 3 years, from about '97 to 2000. Then from 2000 to 2004, put the uniform back on, served in the Army National Guard, 121st Infantry Division right over here on Cypress Street. So, and I was rear detachment for Bosnia. So I was activated full-time Army a couple of times during that 4 years. After that, went through a divorce, decided to go to school, graduated twice from Wiregrass, graduated twice from VSU, and I'm in a master's program right now for MPA, Master's of Public Administration. I ran for office not too long ago, and I'm going to run again. And so that is half a century fast forward how I got here today. I love you guys' show. I'm so glad to be here. I think that the African American man, and I use that term lightly, African American, not the man part, but for all intents and purposes, the African American man really needs a platform to get his thoughts and experiences out there. I mean, there's a lot of misconceptions, and I think a lot of times society and women speak louder than we do, so, and that's not really fair to us. We've all had different experiences. We're all individuals, and the world looks different to all 8 billion of us on the planet. So to assume that there's one opinion or one point of view or one paradigm is very erroneous, and it usually gets people going down the wrong path when they have to interact with other people. And so hopefully we can put a small dent into that on this show, and I'm just happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, man, we're glad to have him, my brother. We're glad to have him. We also have another young man who's we're trying to get him linked in now. Our brother Dallas Moore. He's another one of the brothers who's very active in the community, well established, has a lot of connections, and it definitely has a voice that we want to make sure is heard on this show. But we know he's still working through those, so we're going to make sure we provide that opportunity for him to log on. But yeah, this is our space, man. This is our opportunity. So what I want you all to do is while we're on Brother Black, Brother Thomas, while you're on, if you want to share this information, I just copied the link and shared it out. And so we could just send it to some of the brothers, whether through text or through DM or instant message or whatever. Want to make sure we're on and give them opportunity to talk. But we're just gonna create a space where we can speak freely. And these are our opinions. No one on here has the absolute truth, no absolute facts. We're just going to be able to provide an opportunity. We can stand on our square and talk as men. So, without further ado, brothers, we're going to jump right in to what it is we want to do today. Make sure, if you haven't subscribed, make sure you can subscribe to our YouTube and also to our Instagram, Black in the Bold. But you can go to either one of those and check us out. Make sure you hit that notification bell because we're gonna be dropping some fire right here at this spot. So, brothers, let's have a conversation. Let's talk because I think a good thing that we can talk about right now, we've seen the last couple of years, is the attack on masculinity. Masculinity has been under attack in so many different directions, and I think it's the masses' idea or it's the masses' intent to convolute what masculinity really is. So I want to ask y'all a question: Are men and masculinity on the road to becoming extinct? Are men and or masculinity on the road to becoming extinct?
Well, that's a very good and leading question because it obviously is a follow up with a yes in the sense of the direction and the theme of this country and perhaps even the world in that sense. But I would say if I had to go yes or no, yeah, I would have to go with yes. It's on that pathway because what you see now in media, what you see now being labeled as toxic masculinity, those terms that are being thrown out. People being blackballed from speaking their mind, speaking their male masculinity mind. Dave Chappelle, shout out. And people can't speak truly about how they feel about certain things. And then when it happens, there's a constant backlash. One that comes to mind is some of what is it, the feminist movement, if you will, as it continues to now be more of a popular concept now, so much that that empowerment has not been in the same natural balance being progressed as a male movement, especially in the Black community, and even more so to where as we know, our men are being killed justly. Grateful enough, we got some trials now that kind of give some justice here and there, but at the end of the day, you can't bring back Ahmaud Arbery just because someone was found guilty. And so, we're dealing with that as always. It's just another lynching um, uh, protocol, just a different way. And even with you talking about, lynching from a figuratively speak, when it comes to our entertainers. I just talked about Dave Chappelle. However you feel about Bill Cosby, people are being castrated because of what they've planned to do, what they've said. That has been going on for a while now, and I think some of the heat has been turned up, quite frankly. But that's my leading thought.
Brother Thomas, what do you think about it? What do you think about the attack? Are men and masculinity on the road to becoming extinct?
Well, I think that this has been something that's been going on for hundreds of years. The attack, at the inception of slavery, they had to attack male masculinity, or there wouldn't have been any slavery. So one thing about our enemy, and I'm not trying to identify, one white person or a group of white people. It's a systematic thing that has been snowballing and very meticulously planned out over hundreds of years. The feminist movement, I think, was just another distraction or a plot to take away from men needing to stand up. Because, if a man is on his square, so to speak, and if he's doing what he's supposed to be doing, why would you have to have a feminine movement? He's going to automatically, the Black man automatically takes care of his woman, And I think that I think it was Umar Johnson said it, that it was actually the white woman that was having problems with her man. And our women kind of got sucked into it, which is a consequence of why we're facing what we're facing now. And so, going back to about 1974, if you look at the history in it, in the DSM-4, when they went to 5, I think it was 5, when they redefined what homosexuality was, it was no longer a mental diagnosis, and they made it okay. And you have to go back that far to look at how we are here today, you know? So this is part of the system just doing what it does to us. It's just kind of in our face now, but we don't know why. So if we don't get a grip on it now, then yeah, we're going to have some really serious problems. I mean, it's almost like now, no matter who you're dealing with, you're going to be dealing with a woman, or you won't know who you're dealing with. I mean, when society has to pass laws, so individuals who are actually men, but don't think so anymore, can't participate in the sport because they're dominating the sport, because no matter what they think they are, they're still actually men. You know, that's a huge problem when, you know, politics and lawmakers have to step in, which is what governors are starting to do right now. So, I mean, that just goes to show the extent of the problem. It's at least at the state level.
And I think you brought up a good point, and to really kind of uncover some of the levels, you know, that's connected to the attack. Um, I mean, I think I agree with both of y'all's point. You know, there's a lot. This has been a multifaceted, multi-leveled attack against men, and like you said, this is not a new battle for men. Um, but let me ask you a question: Why do you think, in the grand scheme of things, it has been a constant attack on men when men built the world, when men built our societies, when men constructed our governments? Why is it that there's seems to be a lot of collusion with other men, you know, to want to kind of water down what a man really looks like? Why do you think there's a constant attack on the very thing that keeps us or made us who we are as a country and as a society?
Well, I mean, the first thing that kind of comes to mind is more so, you know, you've got to probably look at the history of different cultures, and there, you know, certain cultures that sort of reveled in some of the homosexuality aspect. You know, there are some other cultures that were more military driven, other cultures that were more nature based, and so, and of course, there's combinations of all that, you know, that existed. But I think a lot of what, you know, we're seeing now is just really, as Malcolm X said, you know, at least, you know, probably a paraphrase from the movie is that the chickens have come home to roost. Is that we've been kind of, you know, really simmering this throughout history, and even when you're talking about, you know, OG's talking about the slavery aspect of it, you know, there was we talked about it before, this buck breaking. I mean, you know, even with that, as terrible as that is, but the act of that is a man sodomizing another man, and that's not the first time that we've seen that in history. You know, from particular cultures, and so we've got to see that, you know, some people, like, again, if I shared, this is a weak example, by the way, but if I shared pecan pie or pecan, whichever way y'all want to say it, my wife says pecan, so I'm a pecan guy myself. But anyway, but if I share pecan pie with, you know, each of you, and you know, brother Mac, you like it, and brother Thomas, you know, you despise it. But Mac is like, you know, hey, I want to look into this some more. You know, this was a little tasteful. And so my point is just that, is that you got people that are butt breaking, but then they kind of like it, and then it becomes a cultish type of act. You know, there's some growth in that. And so again, I think that you know, this is something that's been brewing throughout history, to where then it becomes a level of how do we give equality and equity to all of these groups, whether you like pecan pie or not. I think what we built now is a country that has become this big brew of different cultures and different likes and preferences, that everybody gets a seat at the table, so to speak. in the realm of what voices they have. And we never, in a sense of black men, yeah, because I know your question was about men in general, but black men never got their voice heard, in the first place when it came to when it comes to history, as it relates to getting equity. And I think what's happened over time, as you can see throughout the civil rights era, just when Brother McIntyre talked about the feminist movement being a distraction, that whole civil rights uh, really watered down the aspect of what should have been black rights and the African American experience. And that's why Dr. King, after having said the speech, I have a dream. Years later, he says that that dream has now become a nightmare. And for those that are new to our platform or hearing us for the first time, feel free to look it up. He does say that on camera in an interview that dream has become a nightmare. And the context of that is that the assimilation of African Americans for the need to be equal, that really watered down a lot of the strength that we had in play within our own school systems and with our own communities that were very strong, and in this case, male led. And I mean, it wouldn't go on. It's really a whole lot that we have to unpack, even in this conversation and future conversations, to really talk about a lot of the crux of the matter and probably different factors that we can pinpoint on. But I think it's just the fact, it's a factor of what we've seen play out over centuries. And I think that we've gotten to the point where the manhood and masculinity has been out of popularity. It's off season right now for manhood to be popular. But back in the 70s or early 80s, it was. And I say that because I'm a 70s baby, late 70s, and grew up in the 80s and flourished in the 90s. So I can't speak, to any era past that. But we were raised, Mac and I, we were raised by men that were masculine, and that today they probably would be labeled, toxic masculinity. And so that has an eye on it now. People are looking and watching people who are toxic and calling them out. Talk about coaches. Coaches can't do what they used to do. That's toxic now. That's unhealthy. And of course, there's some validity in the extreme examples of that. But I think that's what we're saying is we're taking one pill to eliminate everything that we deem as masculine when there are some toxic factors and there are some good factors. And we have to be careful with that when it comes to black men raising black young men. And I take that responsibility myself because I have a son, just like Mac. And so we have to take in-house responsibility to raise our kids with some old school flavor and at the same time with some new age flavor that is a bit, as I speak to others about, having a larger toolkit. Some things we can learn from the previous generation, and some things we need to learn because we never were taught. So I think it's just an ongoing battle, but the seasons have changed.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And you're right. There has been a lot of attachments, from other different genres of life or community or society that kind of tag along, which make, that male masculinity topic a lot more difficult to really explain because of all the new parameters, because of all the, you've moved your gate back now. You've given a man to be so much more room to be called a man because I
Yeah.
wanted to, because you made me think of something when you said that.
Mhm.
And I have to ask that question because it makes me think, should we equate man and masculinity together? Are they synonymous or
Well,
should they be synonymous?
it, that's an interesting concept as far as a question, because I mean I think there's no right, wrong. There's probably this whole SAT best answer to it, right? Because scientifically there's a bit of masculinity in the female, there's a bit of femininity within the man. So what I'm saying. So there's things that we play with regard to words. I think even to some of what you were just saying prior to the question is that we have to go back to defining in our own households, in our cultures, in our communities, what manhood, masculinity really is. and who are some of the models that we are going to put on a pedestal to be models of masculinity. And I think that what we end up doing, like for instance, Dave Chappelle, and I'm going to keep kind of using some near recent type examples, but in the platform that he has, um, manhood is also speaking your mind and standing
Yeah.
on what your opinion is and backing it up until the point to where if you want to concede, you concede because someone has a point that has corrected you or whatnot. But anyway, my point though is that um, a lot of us get into a situation to where we're blackballed, but nobody's there to support us. All right. And so what happens is that, well, okay, well, I guess he's not really a true example of masculinity because we don't want to go down that path where we get blackballed. You know what I'm saying? So it's a residual effect. But if we stand behind the manhood that's being exemplified, then without a doubt, the community, regardless of common culture, or excuse me, popularity, pop culture, that is, I meant to say,
Yeah.
regardless of what pop culture defines as manhood, our
Mhm.
community is going to be in support of that brother or sister
Right.
in whatever case.
Brother OG, Dwayne brings up another good part of that, another good segue, because now he talks about there not really being a clear cut definition. And almost in the society that we're living in, it would be problematic to say this is masculinity, period. Because, of course, like he was saying, there's a yin yang, there's a balance in male and female. But when you look at the definition of masculinity, masculinity by definition says the qualities or attributes regarded as characteristic of men: handsome, muscled, driven, uh, virility, masculinity, maleness, vigor, strength, robustness.
So
But then we look at the definition of manhood.
yeah, okay.
And manhood is just the state or period of being a man rather than a child.
It's an
Now,
evolution, right?
exactly. And so by that being an evolution, but if you look at some of the words that they play on, in mass media, toxic masculinity
Mhm.
seems like they're attacking the man by even misusing the word. Because how can you be a man, be fertile and be not fertile, but be virile and be strong and be all of that, and it be toxic? So
Right. So
are we
are you getting it like the definition of masculinity is actually being attacked?
exactly? That's my point, and that's why I was going
The
to ask
words that you
OG.
just used,
Yeah,
they're saying that's toxic.
exactly, and it's like it's confusing. So,
Right.
brother Thomas, what do you think? Do you think that this is a calculated approach by them being able to kind of kind of straddle the fence with a play on words while they're also trying to stir up the masses, by trying to create a narrative by misusing the word? Do you think that's what they're doing?
Absolutely. You think everything is a plot to me. no, nothing,
There's nothing by accident, huh? Nothing
Yeah.
coincidental.
happens by
There's always
accident.
an orchestration going on.
There's
Yes, sir.
always somebody, the movers and the shakers, who have the power to influence things one way or another, left, right, up, or down. They will
Yeah.
do so because the
Yeah.
one thing about power, whether you're male or female, if you get too much of it and you're not very well morally grounded, it'll get corrupted, And so when we want to look at toxic masculinity, every person, every man in history, whether they were black or white, or Genghis Khan, who's, I guess technically he's black too, but no matter who it was, when they went out and just conquered and slaughtered people for the sake of just expansion, that's toxic masculinity. That is the misuse of the powers that were given to the man. So
Yeah.
today, what they're calling toxic masculinity is not toxic masculinity. It's just an attack on men, period, from my perspective. And in one way, it manifests itself, especially in the African American culture. Here is that life is rather difficult for us already. So if you tell somebody you don't have to be masculine and live up to what men really do, it's a way out for a man, you know? He's like, man, I don't have to be masculine. I can be feminine, and then I'm not held accountable for a lot of stuff. You know, if I don't have to stick my chest out, not to fight no another man. And if I do and lose, nobody thought I was gonna win anyway. You know what I'm saying? So you know, so I think it allows I think that the system understands the psychology that we're dealing with, and it uses it against us because the system's smarter than we are, which goes back to the education system that doesn't educate us on the psychology and the sociology and how all these things interact. We just think that there's problems all around. And then because we're not educated or informed enough to identify the root of the problem and then come up with why there is a problem and we're identifying it as a problem, we just call it whatever we want to.
Yeah. So with that, with that, does it seem like they're pretty much playing on our ignorance? They taking advantage of our ignorance
all the time.
Always.
Yeah.
I mean, that's always.
In order for this system to predicate, it has to have ignorance. I mean, just like OG was talking about with the education system. I mean, it is a brainwash experience for you to sit and learn and think that the pathway to success is to go to school, get a good job, this, that, and other, retire. All that is predicated on ignorance.
Yeah.
It is, and it's absolutely wrong in the school system. Most of what we learn in school, we could learn on our own if we were actually educated from the first through the third grade, and actually from birth to first grade.
Yeah.
So when a mother doesn't read in different languages while she's pregnant, then the baby is not getting that vibration. So when it's taught the language, after birth, it doesn't really understand. The child doesn't understand because it wasn't exposed to it. And anybody that's taken any psychology classes knows that your brain starts to prune itself. So we start educating our communities more so in high school after we've lost half of our brain cells.
Yeah.
And so that's not by accident. That is not by accident at all. So whoever you are, by the time you become a teenager, you're going to carry that forward with you no matter what you do. And they know that. But they have to get you while you're young. The indoctrination starts back then. That's why Hitler and everybody else went after the kids.
So by saying that, and you segued into an awesome another question that brings up, because not really a question, but just a topic of conversation that would definitely explain why there's a huge push on this gender neutral what do they call it, gender representation or whatever it is, with the young children now. Because I shared it with you before the show, Thomas, but that I think it was, I don't know what state it was in. I hate doing that, but there's a state, I think it's California or Colorado, one of them. They've already approved gender neutral bathrooms for elementary schools. It's been approved. So now kindergarten through fifth grade, they can actually identify as gender neutral or change their gender or whatever. And that's something that can become a reality in our children's life. So I think that ties into directly what you were just saying, the fact that they know that they can wire your psychosis and your pathology as a little child, and they can and that I guess that ties also in the fact that how they take the math from who's passing or failing the third or fourth grade standardized test and translate that data into how many cells, prison cells can be built in the future. There must be some type of math to this.
It's all mathematical.
Yeah, there's a science that we're missing.
It's smarter than us.
Yeah.
And the state, at least one of the states, but the state that you may be looking for is actually New York. Just found it there online.
Well, yeah, that's what another one. Sodom and Gomorrah.
Hey, you matter of fact, you just mentioned that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, just that. I mean, I think that this is important for us to talk about as men, in my opinion, because as leaders of the home, we need to be very aware, of the tactics that are being used and posed against us. So we as leaders can see this from afar off and start, strategizing as men should. I don't know if you guys. I'm sure you guys have probably read the book, but I'm listening to the audio book of Sun Tzu. The Art of War, and I mean, there's so much wisdom and so much insight in that book, and it talks about being able to be successful in war by being able to properly assess your enemy. And if you know how to properly, if once you figured out the pathology or the mind frame of the enemy you're working against, there are tactics and ways on how you can get on their nerves. There's the way you can make them expose themselves. You can make them move prematurely, just out of you playing offense and defense. And I don't think enough men play offense and defense. I think we play a whole lot of offense, especially when we're chasing women, when we're chasing money, when we're chasing success, when we're chasing status. We're willing to do the work and work long hours and sacrifice a few things. But I think a lot of times when that happens, we leave our families and our children vulnerable when we're too busy focused on reaching the goal line without trying to defend your own. You know what I'm saying? What do y'all think about?
Right.
Do y'all think men play enough balance in the game of life when it comes playing offense and defense? And what have you all seen for the most part?
I was going to agree with you. That was some thoughts that I had, and I'm glad it's kind of coming back up routinely, naturally, because that's what I was thinking earlier. Brother OG here was talking about the system in general, and then now we're talking about the school system, and then we're talking about some of these laws in different municipalities and in the school systems. And then you talked about, are we reaching them too late when they become teens? Psychologically, it's already locked in. I mean, all of this relates to how early we actually engage and interact intently, with our
Yeah,
kids. And so, where I was going at, because there's a number of different ways you can start there, but where I was going was that, for instance, we've got mentoring opportunities that happen typically at the middle school and above level. We don't necessarily mentor our kids in as an elementary age student, and that's unfortunate to the point that you were making, because if we're not accessing the mental capacity of our kids at that age to where they're being molded by systems and not giving them mental ammunition to be able to either hold off some of those things and just kind of learn, but be with an understanding that I don't need to sink that in because I'm getting more of the language of my culture at home. And so,
yeah,
like you said, we're not sort of, we are misrepresenting how much favor we need to be giving towards whether it's athletics, whether it's money, cars, females. We're doing a whole lot of offensive attack for those items, and then we become reactive and just say defensive to play the heads of the coin. That we're becoming defensive once we see, oh, we've got too much shooting going on in our neighborhoods. Oh, our kids are failing. We need to institute mentoring programs. And then, by the way, we're at that point a little too late. In this case, you may be able to save a few here and there, but how much would you have been able to save if you actually instituted that earlier? And then we've got to work with the school system to be able to unravel that, because I don't think it's coincidental that it's easier to get into a school system at the middle school and high school level perhaps than it is to get in there at the elementary level with our mentoring programs. Because for instance, and hopefully Brother Moore, he can get back on here, because he's a prime representative of where I'm talking about, is that with his King's Foundation program, what they're able to do is actually offline, if you will, from the school system, is meet with kids from a range that he would be able to speak to and actually reach them and empower them from a cultural standpoint, whether
yeah,
it's their own African, Hispanic, whatever background, but get them offline from the school, from the day-to-day mental jargon and brainwashing that's happening, as far as we call them rules in our house, bullshit rules. But basically those rules that are being locked in mentally, versus them actually learning cultural empowerment.
yeah, yeah. I think that's big for us, because that kind of segues into and brother OG. Anytime you want to jump in, don't feel free, don't hold back. That kind of made me segue because you start talking about the effects and the power of having culture. So my next question, matter of fact, my next question is,
Let me
should
jump in
a,
on what DJ was saying real quick, Mac.
go ahead.
When we talked about the school system, I got to go back to the school system.
Okay.
If you go back to prior to about 1960, African Americans, when they went to school, went to college, we went to our own schools and colleges. You
Yeah.
know, so the civil rights movement, although on the surface it seemed like the right thing to do, nonviolence, tamp down your masculinity, nonviolence, and then we fought. It really when I was being raised back then, I was all gun ho, and I was like, yeah, sure, that makes sense to me. Yet, we should not have, in hindsight, in my opinion, we should not have. Let me phrase this properly.
Integrate.
Uh, we'll say integrate. I was going to name individuals, but we'll say integrate. We should not have integrated because it didn't really make sense to me that you would fight to get into a system that wasn't built for you to prosper by people who didn't want you in there in the first place.
Exactly.
So it was an illogical battle. If you go back to Sun Tzu, what battles are we even fighting? I think we're fighting the wrong battles. And a few years ago, I had one of the school board members call me and say, hey, I got elected, and I value your opinion. What advice do you have for me? And I said, seriously? I said, this would be a short conversation. I said, get all of our kids out of that system. And she said, well, that's not practical. I was like, well, that's what you need to do. I said, because you can't beat people at their own game.
Yeah.
I said, we are continually going out here, shaking our fists, still telling people that never, ever wanted us to be educated to this day. And we're still fighting to have them educate us.
Yep.
Which is not logical. It makes no sense. We need to get all of our kids out of that system and let them have it. Because it's not just African Americans. The 1902 mantra for the General Education Board, to this day, you can Google it. It says that we will not be educating the masses. That will be reserved for the elites. And that was 120 years ago.
Yeah.
And we still don't even, acknowledge the formation of the education system and what their actual goals were.
Yeah.
Which makes no sense. So I'm not really a black and white person. You have to talk about black and white because it just is what it is, and it's easier to identify certain groups. But our system, it attacks everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Everybody can get it.
I was really concerned about, being racist at some point in my life because the more I looked at history, I was like, man, everything bad anybody's ever done, they've been European. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it just is what it is.
Yeah.
But as I looked at it and continued to study, I started to realize is that the system is everybody's enemy. Because if you're a bigot and you're racist, you've been miseducated and misinformed just like I have.
That's true.
So it's not really your fault either. I know we tend to get the worst in the stick. However, they're just as misinformed, abused, and used as we are.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. And I mean, that's a good point to make with that too. Just the fact that, one way to stop the cycle or to stop this attack would be to, kind of, retreat in a way, because one thing that really, really caught me about that whole integration situation was actually understanding the real definition of it. To basically integrate, which, it really just means to basically forget or overlook what you know, only to then address what you've been presented to make that your new reality. And so by doing that, just with that small definition speaks volumes to what happened to us.
And that's essentially what has happened. I mean, I think like I say, there are many facets to it, and as far as the residual result, I mean, but sticking with education, I mean, that's exactly what we're experiencing now, and then asking for programs that are more relevant to our culture. And you get that piece to where there's minority type of enrichment programs and all of that, but it's only to appease those that have been asking for it, and those that have forgotten totally about it. We're not even asking in some cases. I find it very alarming in some sense of it, that say a school system that we have here that's 75 to 80% African American, if not more, in a lot of cases, at least people of color, darn near 95%. But there's very little cultural history in their programming until you get to Black History Month, and or their minority. I think it's a minority cultural elective that they have, and that's basically what has come down from the Georgia Department of Education, is that there is an elective that is promoted for schools to be able to have. And I don't think that that is enough, especially when you're talking about integration. You've given up yourself in order to gain status and access to what those others have already had, and they haven't given up anything. And that's really what we're talking about when it comes to the African American experience.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. We have a lot, but you made me think about something when it comes to just some of the things that we have to do as men moving forward. When you talked about us kind of pulling out of the system, since that's really not a reality for a lot of people. What are some things that we can do? As fathers,
Yeah.
to because I mean, I'm definitely all three of us. I'm sure we are all very supportive of men issues. But how can us fathers, whether you're with your child or whether you're separate, what are some things that we can do to be a real beacon for our children, leading them into this new reality that we're now living in? That's completely
I'm,
different than what we grew up in.
let OG go first, but I just wanted to say shout out to Mike Lane, because he just gave us a shout out there to hello to it. So shout out to
Shout
Mike
out.
Lane. But OG, what are your thoughts? Because like I say, I'll rant on if I don't give you an opportunity there. So excuse me.
Um, nah, it's all right. I'm sucking it all in here, drawing it all in. It's all good, good conversation, good information. But I think the main thing that we have to do as men in the community is, I think sometimes we focus a little too much on our kids, and I think that focus needs to be a lot broader. I mean, I like to use myself as an example a lot of times because there's no second party involved. I know I'm not lying because I was there. I've actually assisted in raising maybe 4 times as many kids as I actually have that are biological, because all kids are my responsibility. All of our kids are all of our responsibilities as adults and as men. It's just something that we can't distinguish between this child or that child, who I pay child support for, who I don't pay child support for. I I haven't had a woman ask me for child support because I think that they value what I was bringing to the table more than forcing me away and taking a couple $100. And I think that's another thing that we have to do. We have to make ourselves more valuable than child support.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That is absolutely true. And then I know that I don't know if Brother Black had thought about that or was going to talk about that, but that kind of ties into our blueprint. We were talking about restoring the Black family and understanding that there are going to be some men that are going to have to marry single mothers, to father some of those children that are part of the community that don't have a man in their life, because we're gonna have to make a few uncomfortable decisions to really repair the Black community the way it needs to be. And if you look at history and the data, during that 60s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, stepfather thing was huge, especially in the 70s and early 80s. And the truth be told, if it had not been for stepfathers, in a lot of cases, we probably would have been worse off than we are now. And so I agree with you, Brother Thomas, that we are going to have some men that have a heart enough, to father not just their own seed, but the seeds of their community. And I think that is going to be a good way, for us to be effective, because I had, that, I don't know. I think you all have kind of read all of my questions because you all are giving me perfect segues. I mean, y'all giving me a bunch of alley oops with these questions. But Brother Bo, did you have Black? Did you have anything else to add before we
No,
segue?
I think that's spot on. I mean, I'll probably, like I told OG, I'll ramble away, but I think that's pretty much the epitome of the answer. There is that we've got to, as you said, be willing to be a model and mentor even more than just our own seeds, and that's
Yeah,
essentially what we saw growing up. And I'm sure OG,
yeah,
you experienced
exactly,
the same thing. But
exactly.
here in Valdosta, that's what we saw growing up, is that we had a tribe of kids and kids of color that were following some lions, and
Yeah,
that's how we learn to be
yeah,
cubs and future lions. And so
yeah,
that's where we come, in the sense of not really backing down. And no matter what the background or what part of the county you came from, you saw some men that were not afraid of being called toxic.
yeah. Yeah, and
Right, right.
before we move on, but you did make a good point. They weren't scared of the toxic word at all. But before we move on, I would just want to encourage all of our watchers, and while you're on, whether it doesn't matter what page you're on or what platform you're on, we're going to encourage you all to join the conversation at some point. We want to make sure that you all get an opportunity to, to share. You can talk with us and give us your opinion on whatever it is that you want to share. Whether you like what I said or you disagree with what we said or whatever, we invite it all. This isn't a place where we're going to tell you that you're right or wrong. We're just gonna, again, we're gonna challenge you on some things, make you stand on your square, like we were taught as kids. Strengthen your argument and stop complaining. So that's what we're going to do at this point. So we love y'all. Thank y'all so much for logging on. Probably in the next few minutes, probably in the next 10 or 15 minutes, we're going to shoot the link to the chat. So if you want to join, if you want to come on screen, and whether you want to give us a shout out or you want to tell us we crazy and we don't know what we're talking about, we'll give you your space too. You know what I mean? So we just want to share that with you. But I did want to segue real quick, because you all were talking about the importance of a man, and that having that male figure that's actually the epitome of a male figure. This is something that I think is another thing that's being attacked, is the physicality of young boys. When we were young boys, it was kind of commonplace. You were going to fight your cousins, you were going to fight your friends, you were going to get in disagreements. You were going to play tag. You were going to jump on the trampoline. You were going to play tackle football. Y'all going to play kickball. I mean, we were going to climb trees. We were going to find, we're going to find a dirt bike. We're going to go jump dirt miles, whatever it might be. We were physical kids. We were outdoors. But now, seemingly, a man being aggressive is definitely problematic. So I want to share something with y'all that I actually saved on the on my in the Instagram, and I want to share it with y'all really quickly. So let's see. I'm going to put this up. See if I can get it to share it. All right. We're going to share this, and we're going to get to. Hopefully, it'll share. Hopefully, it will. And let me know if y'all can hear it.
For men to be dangerous, and to be, violent or have the capacity for violence, but it's important to be peaceful. Yeah. Because violence is necessary. If you don't have it, the capacity for it, you're just a victim waiting to happen. Right. And who wants to be a victim? So it's interesting that there's so many people that are just victims waiting to happen. For sure. Know what I'm saying? So, that's something that I'm not with, but I try to promote for fellas like, learn how to fight, at least go to the gun range, whatever. Yeah. Be dangerous, because your women will appreciate that. For sure. Your kids will appreciate that. You know what I'm saying? And it's not like you walk around like a tough guy, because that shit is whack too. But you got to be able to have that shit tucked away for if it's needed. I said it's very necessary.
What do y'all think about this?
That's real talk right there. That's big stuff. Because I mean, the first thing that came to mind there are a couple of things, with regards to gun control, right? As far as we saw this several years ago, right? I forget which not accident, but act of murder that happened to the young boy that was in a Walmart or a toy store, or whatever, walking around with the toy gun and got shot, upon sight by the police. We're seen as threats, and so it causes us in some cases, speaking generally us, not me, but it causes us in some cases to be a bit more cautious when wanting to own a gun or wanting to learn how to shoot. But that's in their nature when it comes to our counterparts from a European American standpoint, white, whatever you want to call it, Caucasian. But they a lot of them are raised, toting guns, and we saw the same thing, with what's the young boy that just got cleared of all those charges. He just right down. Say it again.
Rittenhouse.
Yeah, thank you. And so, walking right down the street, no fear at all, and he can harm and kill people, and not have an ounce of a smack on the wrist. The only smack of the wrist, you need to show up in court. So it's a different persona that's played out in Americulture, and that's problematic. That's a problem, and that's by design, as we can see. I mean, because you look at all this peels back to slavery just being retold in a different narrative. So, if a slave were to pick up an object or a weapon, what was deemed to be a weapon, he clearly was going to get dealt with. And so it's the same way here at this point. And the other thing that I was thinking about, again, talking about education, but what happens is that, again, that psychological mind, word there, that mind messing up there is that our kids are taught about revolutionaries, that come across from Europe over to here and rebel and, take on their land and stand their ground and all of this. But we can't get one story of Nat Turner being taught in our schools. We can't get one story of what was with the Haitian Revolution. And so those things aren't taught from
children.
Exactly. Those things are not taught from elementary through middle school. But what we learn is over and over again, social science or social studies, whatever you want to call it, with regards to the battles and the wars that are being fought with European Americans or Europeans as the heroes, as the ones that are the war heroes and all of that. And we're sprinkled in here and there. If you got the right teacher, if you got the right book, you might learn about a few. Especially in February, you might learn about more than just Martin Luther King, but you're not going to learn anything about Malcolm X, not from the Department of Education. And that's the point, is that the government is okay with showcasing a bunch of revolutionaries that look like them, but we don't see that. We don't get the same afforded opportunity to be educated on activists that handled their business, stood in the square, and got results. How many students know about the Black Panther Party and what they did when they stood up to cops and educated themselves on the laws and the rules and how to speak empowered but right when dealing with police? And so those are the things that it causes a different narrative to play out with regard to being able to defend yourself or being willing to and confident with defending yourself.
Yeah,
in this country.
Brother OG, should men set out to be dangerous?
Not necessarily. So I agree. I know what the brother is talking about in the video, but I can give some examples of growing up in Harlem. There was an instance. There was more than one instance, but I'll use this when we were in high school. All the gangs, when we got to school, there was a truce between everybody, no matter where you were from, what gang you was in, or whatever. And there were obviously weaker individuals around us. And we would identify bullies. And there was no one gang that had to address the issue. I remember this guy's name was Kenny Hutch. We were all standing along the wall, and a guy named Ollie was bullying a smaller kid. Kenny came off the wall. He whispered in his ear. And as he walked away, and he said, "That won't happen again." He just stood back on the wall, and that was all that was said. Ollie went In Ollie's world, he was a bully. He he was exuding masculinity in a toxic way, you know, but his victim could not be expected to do what the guys on the wall were capable of doing. They were not alpha males. You know, they couldn't do that. So when you put alpha male mentality into a Bravo male, you get drive-bys.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to live up to an expectation, not knowing how to handle it or how it works or when to use their masculinity because they've just been said, you're a man, you got to show some cojones and, you know, defend yourself and be prepared, or the woman won't like you, like old dude said, and that can be a disaster. It's more important as mentors for us to set examples and also let other men know that it is completely okay for them to identify where they fall into the pecking order. You know,
Right. Everybody can't be a chief or an alpha male.
everybody, it's not gonna happen, and that's okay. That is okay.
Yeah.
But if you're at the top of the pecking order, you have to know that you're responsible for everybody under you.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Well,
That's right.
I would take your, because I was going to disagree and I was going to say yes, but when you say that, I think we should set out to be dangerous, but I think the danger should be predicated upon what our strength is.
Exactly.
If you're a smart individual, you be smart with that mind of yours. You
That's
be
right.
dangerous with that thing. If you dangerous with them hands,
Yeah.
you be dangerous with them hands. You know what I'm saying? Like whatever your thing is. Now I
You're
get what
right.
you're saying. Like, that unbridled anger and all that kind of stuff. I get it. And that is absolutely true. I think we should set out to be dangerous according to our strengths. And the reason I say that is because if we look back at the type of male society we have in the Black community now compared to the 60s and the 70s, especially when you brought up the Black Panthers. I think Dwayne brought the Black Panthers up.
That's a good point.
But when you bring that up, you think about these guys were dangerous, but they were dangerous according to the circumstance. And they understood the rules of engagement and they were willing to go, to that furthest extent if it needed to be because of the purpose and because of the cause. So that's why I was saying just be dangerous according to, what your strengths are. But he does make a lot of good points because I think a man is very dangerous when he's a poised, controlled, tempered man. Because just because he's a quiet man, just because he's not he's not that rah dude, don't mean he can't shake some stuff up. You know what I'm saying? And I would rather be the dude that you underestimate because I've been cool and calm the whole time. You know what I'm saying? Be the guy that's rah, get my teeth knocked in. You know what I'm saying?
But quickly enough, that goes back to your Art of War reference.
Exactly. And I think, and I was just talking to my son the other night about this, and just telling him that, I would prefer you to be a calculated man than to just be ultimately successful. I would prefer you to be calculated because when you calculate it, you have an expectation. You can kind of it's almost like you can kind of predict in a way how certain circumstances will happen when you calculate it, at least on your side. I don't just want you out there running and chasing the bag. Be calculated. I said be calculated with your women, be calculated with your friends, with your money, with all of that. Because I think we all can be dangerous in many different ways. And I don't think we're dangerous now. I don't think the Black man is dangerous outside of his ability to affect he's dangerous when that part of our society can pull something from him and make money off of it. But for him to actually affect his own community, stand firm on his square, and be a man in his community, I don't think we're dangerous anymore. And I think do you think that's why we get all this pushback with this Kevin Samuels talk and with this,
Well,
this alpha male talk
I
and this
think
thing
it goes even further than just even pushback from the Kevin Samuels talk. I think that's why, I'm speaking even just merely from a platform of OG sitting in the same county, city, location I am in, and so I think that's why we don't see a whole lot of change here in Valdosta, for instance. it's a platform for us. So I'm speaking my mind in the sense that that's why we don't see a whole lot going on here, because we have not flexed. OG's doing his thing. I'm doing my thing. Brother over here doing his thing. But we are not collectively flexing our talents in one direction. And I think that's where, like you said, is that we can be dangerous in our own rights. But again, art of war. At what point do we get together and start marching in the same direction and flexing in our own avenues? I think that would be a world of change, even for the point that we need to start in one location at a time, because a national movement is not anytime soon. But what we can do is start to affect change in our own backyard. And a lot of times we have the power, know how to do it, but we're not doing it together. That's just my thing about, locally here.
Yeah. And one of the big things you mentioned about the Black Panthers is that just because the media, which is a whole nother platform that has a whole nother discussion, just because they put out there, the media and the system used to their advantage the fact that Black Panthers were armed. That way it justified what they were doing. However, the Black Panthers were not dangerous because of their firearms. It's the United States of America. What are you supposed to do with the National Guard and the Army? They were not dangerous at all. You know what I'm saying? They probably couldn't have handled the local sheriff's office, actually, if they really rolled up, got themselves together, loaded up the pickup trucks and came on. And it would have been a war, but the Black Panthers would have lost. Trust me.
Yeah.
They were dangerous because they were establishing hospitals. They were establishing places where we could get our own food. They were establishing an economy within an economy. That's what made the Black Panthers dangerous.
Yeah.
It wasn't the arms and stuff. And because we're very visual and we're not giving the whole story, we run with the fact that that's what we need to do. We're all Black. Let's gun up and everything, and then we can become a force too. And that couldn't be further from the truth.
That's true.
What guns do is protect us from ourselves. It does not protect us from anyone else.
Just before you jump in, Edward, giving a shout out to brother Dedrick Mathis. He jumped in and started, replying, to some of the things that we're talking about. And then brother Eros McCullough, your protege.
Yeah, some of my brothers, some of my real brothers, some of our real brothers joining the Lions. Some other Lions joining the den. That's what I'm talking about. We got some other Lions out there joining the den. That's what I'm talking about.
That's what I'm talking about.
Definitely,
I'm sorry. One more. In addition to Nick Johnson, also brother Jay Baldwin also chimed in also. So
there we go. We got to see. That's what I'm talking about. We gonna pause real quick. We got to go ahead and publicly appreciate these other Lions. Listen, we have a circle of brothers who are some real brothers. I'm talking about some men out here that are doing some real things, real fathers, real community leaders. Brother Nick, Brother Jay, Brother Pastor Mathis, Brother E-Riles doing his thing. But listen, y'all, we have some really, really good people. And so I appreciate you guys jumping on. Before things got hot, man, I was sending messages out, sharing. I was trying to get our brothers on because I want our brothers to be a part of this so we can jump and move forward real quick. But thank y'all for logging on, man. Thank y'all. Brother Thomas, will you finish with the comment?
Yeah, I was pretty much done with that. I just want us to be careful about how we're told men are supposed to be, because due to the lack of example that we have, and I'm not saying that there's not real men around, but due to the lack of a cohesive, powerful, broad force out there to where it's very easy for us to understand how we should be, we're getting the wrong message, in my opinion, because I know how things worked when I grew up, and these weren't rules we talked about. They just happened automatically. I knew what to do in a certain situation because I had seen these situations countless times play out. And when it was responded to appropriately, things were okay. And if somebody didn't, things didn't go so okay. So, there was definitely, it was like from being born up to 21, when I left Harlem, it was just like school was in session, but you couldn't talk, it was all observation.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to bring up when I first got here, I was one of those people that wouldn't say anything. If people were like, "Hey man, what's up?" And I'd punch them in the mouth because that meant something different in New York. You know what I'm saying? And
trying to get checked.
so people kind of thought I was a little crazy, but I had to realize that everybody else wasn't crazy. I was crazy. I was living I was from a different environment where there was a lot of unspoken rules, you know?
Yeah.
Where every place I went, not just Valdosta, but across the country, being ex-military, everywhere I went, I had to be very careful of how I responded to things because no one really understood.
Right.
I couldn't hold people accountable anymore.
Yeah.
You know, which was unfortunate, you know, but I couldn't do it because it wasn't really fair to the other people.
True.
It wasn't fair to me either, get locked up or something or jump, or, you know what I'm saying?
Hey, shout out also, man. They pouring in now, so appreciate it. Keep it up, fellas. Keep up the conversation. That is, Lawrence Sanford. He chimed in on my site over here with my live stream, and then also
what up, fam? What up, fam?
To the bros, rude to the bros, because Tyshawn Reed has rude out to the bros. So give Tyshawn Reed.
Yeah, man, we got some real lines on. We definitely got some lines on, and you made some good points, Brother Thomas, about us being able to kind of be able to be wise enough to navigate our masculinity and our manhood depending upon the environment that we're in. I wanted to ask another question that kind of is still under that dangerous. We see a lot of our young brothers now, a lot of our younger brothers coming up, young men coming up. That their level of dangerous is different than ours. If you think about it, their level of dangerous of what they're willing to do as 11, 12. I mean, the little boy that just did the shooting up in Michigan, was that like 2 days ago? Was that Michigan? I think it was like 2 days ago, where he went in there and into the high school and shot up, his fellow classmates. It's another level of dangerous. I mean, when we were coming up, of course, we heard about. I think it was Columbine was around our time, maybe. But outside of that, we didn't really hear a lot of our kids doing a lot of that, especially not our kids. But we didn't hear a lot about it. But now it's like a normal thing. It's probably every year at least. We're having at least one school shooting. I know I'm underestimating, but at least one a year. Are we raising softer boys?
But
think about it. Think about this. I remember we were in boys club. They had boxing. We had wrestling, and of course we had contact sports. But now, now it seems like the boys are, their level of aggression and danger is different. They're not they're not okay with taking a bump and a bruise and a bust lip. They trying to take a life. You know what I'm saying? Are we raising weaker men?
Well,
what do y'all think it is?
It's inappropriately directed men or young men, for the sake of your example. I mean, they're not even men. You're still boys. Because matter of fact, you're not even processing how to even approach that event the right way. So these young boys that are going in and spraying up a school. I mean, that's just misguided. I mean, it's not only misguided in some ways, but it's also just you left the control. Somebody left the controller, just on autopilot, and now this kid don't even know how to function, how to deal with rejection, how to deal with being bullied. I mean, it's all kind of factors that are in play. Whereas beforehand, we've seen some kids getting bullied, and
we have
back. And fortunately, school, but the fact is that I don't know. It just wasn't a common thing that we're seeing now. And one last point that I thought of when you said that is that some folks just at this point don't know how to take a whooping, in a sense, a beat down. And so it reminds me,
I'm scared. Y'all
right? Exactly. As I'm about to say, right? You know it. There you go. You know it. I'm about to say that's Friday right there, Friday. Because I'm like, the fact is, you got to use your hands sometimes, and you got to be willing to take. You win some and you lose some.
Well, see, that's my real question. That's my real question, because nowadays we don't see a huge emphasis put on boys being physically combative.
Right.
Now it's like, and I'm not saying that it has to always be that, but what if the circumstance requires that of you. Should we be
That's
raising
right.
our boys to at least have the discipline and to know when to be physical, that they
That's
can
where
be
that's missing.
There's no
That's where
examples.
that's missing, because there is no then tool set or skills within that toolkit to pull out the fighting card. Fighting card never existed, because we now got kids in front of games, the RPG games, and so now all of a sudden all they know how to do is what they see on the game, as far as
Yeah.
try to
Yeah.
fight back using artillery. And so,
Mhm.
and then also, of course, we're not properly educating kids on gun control. I mean, it's a whole political and realistic point of view you can make about it. But at the end of the day, we're not having these conversations with kids and allowing them to grow up being young men.
And I think it really goes back to the examples, the unspoken examples again, because I know growing up that some of the
Modeling.
baddest people that I knew, I've never seen them lose a fight, have used restraint and just said, "Go ahead, shorty,
Yep.
just go ahead," and just decided not to beat the guy to a pulp. Everybody knew he could win, except the guy that was pissed off at him.
That's true.
He was the only one around, didn't know who he was messing with.
Yeah.
But those guys, they didn't always fight.
Yeah.
And if you don't see that, all of a sudden, if you don't fight, if everybody's fighting, you think you're a punk,
Right.
And so once again, your problem resolution examples are absent.
Yeah.
So at that point, brother OG, I think that means that we need to make sure that we as men and those seeds in our community or the seeds in our home that we're watering, it's important for us to make sure that we take them along with us. There's a scripture that I learned a long time ago that actually still rings true to me now. It says that the old men should teach the young men.
Yes.
I think there should be that we should have a concerted, purposeful effort to make sure that we grab our sons with us and take them along with. I know, Brother Black, you had talked about doing that. I know that Brother Dedrick, he talked about with his business, he's taking his son along. I know Brother Dallas, when they're doing their community events with Kings United, his son is there. I know I try to make sure that everything that I've done in my life, I try to make sure my son is involved, whether directly or indirectly. But I think a lot of the times we underestimate the importance of our son seeing us successful
Yeah.
and our son seeing us in times of conflict.
Yes.
I think
They have
that's
to
extremely
experience
important
everything.
because our sons need to see in real time how men respond to certain what is it? What's the word I'm looking for, Dwayne? The certain
Situations, issues,
issues, I'm looking
scenarios.
for scenarios. I'll get to it in a minute. I'm looking for a certain word, but just certain things that that can push and prime us in certain situations. Our men need to see how we deal with random women. Our men need to see us need to know how to decipher and to look or be discerning and look at certain circumstances or females and say, nah, that ain't nah, she fine and all, but no, that ain't. For
Yeah.
I think they need to see us operating in real time in our wisdom and our experience, so they can then have that, like you said, that real time example of how to deal with it. So when I'm not around my daddy, I can still be a great representative of my father. You see what I'm saying? I
Exactly.
think
Exactly.
I think that's something that we're missing. Are we selling our sons short by not overwhelming them with our presence? I think we should. I
I
think
think
we
we
should.
are. I think we are. I think they need to be exposed to everything we're exposed to, because it's okay. Like you said, you brought up a good point. You know, it's okay to turn females down, no matter what they look like and stuff.
Right.
You have to be able to sum someone up as a mate. Even I don't
Yeah.
care if it's for the rest of your life or till tomorrow. You
Right.
have to be able
Right.
to sum up whether or not you should deal with that person. And nowadays,
Exactly.
that's one reason why we have so many fatherless kids around, because as a man, we weren't taught that. So
Yeah.
we're too apt to take advantage of any opportunity to sleep with a female. You
Yeah.
know, no
Yeah.
matter who it is,
Yeah.
and same thing with the conflict,
Yeah.
and I think that men, on another point, we've gotten so emotional. You know, it's like this is which is more part of the feminine side of us because we're masculine and feminine. You know, but because of the way society is, and it's a whole lot of different factors out there. But we're embracing the emotional side way more than we are the level-headed part of being a man.
Brother OG, I gotta ask you a question because you done dropped something in my lap and I can't let this one slide here. You done started something. Now, by us operating in in more of a feminine energy, do you think that's why it's giving our women the green light
Uh-oh.
to then go into
Don't choose your words.
to then jump into the race? To then
Oh,
jump
yeah.
into the race for the masculine, for the trophy of or trophy of leader, because a lot of the times it's seeming that lately it seems to be a race for the leader, a race for the top. You know, who's going, whether you're
Oh,
going to
yeah,
be a partner
definitely.
and both of y'all going to be on top, or somebody got to be on top. It's like they're competing us for a leadership position. And I have to agree with Kevin Samuels. You know, that weight and pressure is for shoulders, not hips. You know what I'm saying? And I think that they're fighting for a position that they're not anatomically nor spiritually or physically prepared to deal with. And
Yeah.
so, do you think it's because we say, well, I ain't gonna fool with that today? Well, I don't feel like arguing today. Well, I don't want to bring that up today. Do you think that is what has now caused us to somewhat be second fiddle to our women?
All right. You were say, come on with it, E.
I got you, brother. I got you.
I think
I
it
got
causes women to undermine themselves. This whole
Yeah.
situation. It undermines the woman's, because when the woman has to step out of her feminine side and into the masculine side because she's not around real men, when she does look for a man who's embraced the feminine side, females have a conflict. So she's at conflict with the man she wants, she's at conflict with the man and who he is, trying to get the man that she wants.
That she wants, right?
And this is why the female that stepped out of character is having problems in relationships. The only person that can help a woman like that, in my opinion, that has had to take on a masculine role is an alpha male, because he's the only one that's going to put his foot down. He don't care who's around. If she gets any other man, she's going to have a problem with him.
Yep.
You got a point.
Yep. Well, if that be the case, and I know that we've seen a lot, and I know you all have seen it. The last, I would say, at least 5 years. Last year and a half is really coming to that. That thing is really coming to a head. But it seems as if they fight so hard for something that they have no clue of how to operate in it. It's almost like a child that lets you hold a toy, but that child hasn't been taught a lot of emotional intelligence, so it's going to let you hold it for so long until it sees you having fun with it and it wants to take it back. It seems like they do that in a lot of situations when it comes to relationships. And so my question is, if we know, I know Brother Tyshawn just texted me, it has a lot to do with the lack of fathers in the home, for them not being able to have that real example that we talked about. How do we fix this? Because if our masculinity, if we go back to the definition, masculinity and manhood, showing traits of a man and being a man about it is basically what we're talking about. Should we expect that there be some casualties as we regain this position? Because seemingly we're going to have to excommunicate or outcast a lot of our females who think contrary to what the traditional role of man female is.
And the men.
Art of war.
Yeah, they got to go. I mean, it just is what it is.
You can't progress with some of the people holding you back. I mean, I'm sure, I haven't read it from cover to cover, but I'm sure there's a principle in there that speaks to what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Everybody's not going to same people you start, as they say, at the beginning of the football season or beginning of a Georgia Tech, is they look to your left, look to your right. One of those individuals not going to be with you at the end of your journey.
Yeah.
That's
that's just quite natural that you're going to have to shave off some of that that dead weight, as they say.
Yeah, and I think that's important for us because I think moving forward, I've done a almost a Herculean effort when it comes to making sure I interject into my son's relationship. He's I didn't really start until about a year ago, really, because I began to see a lot of the pitfalls that men fall into with for the when they have a very low level of competence in dealing with females. And so I started, giving him some information and kind of, dropping things on him and then trying to be that example as well. And now I see that he's starting to operate in a greater space. Um, is it important? Is it more important for men to develop the character of their sons, or is it more important for the female, or are they equally important? Because in my opinion, I think the man's influence over the boy is more important. And I think the man's influence over the female is more important. I think the father is most important when it comes to parenting, when it comes to developing character, when it comes to developing or establishing boundaries, when it comes to them giving them opportunity to see the reality and the logic. I think that all comes from the man. It should come from the man. But I also think there should be a balance coming from the mother that they will be complementary. But I don't know. Some men don't feel that way. Do you think it's most important for a man for the father to be in that boy's life, or do you think it should be a healthy balance of both?
I don't know, but that's almost unanswerable in my opinion. And I'll say why. Because it's almost impossible to say what the perfect two parents is for the individual, because they're individuals. If you have 5 kids, you can love them the same, raise them the same. They can all witness the same things, go to the same school, and you might have one in prison, 2 go on to college, one gets a PhD, and the other one gets hit by a truck.
Yeah.
And then you're looking at, what did you do wrong? And you didn't do anything wrong. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You did nothing wrong. So you almost can't answer the question, because I think every parent has to figure out how to be the type of parent they need to be for every single child, because they're all different.
Yeah.
I can
That's
understand
funny.
that.
That's funny
I
you
can
said that.
understand
Go
that.
ahead, brother.
Yeah,
Go
I can
ahead, brother Black.
understand that. I would also just tend to, if I had to lean a certain way, I'd lean to your side in the sense of what you're proposing. And like you said, reality, OG, is that yes, I think you're absolutely right. I think what, for instance, I'm just speaking from our point of view, and even what I saw growing up, and the fact that for instance, my dad and our family had on other individuals. My opinion would be that even though it might be indirect, as far as the female in the sense of the daughter, but I think that the leadership that the father has in the house as a present male in the household, I think first and foremost that authoritative figure needs to pick up the reins and lead and show that this is how it goes. It can't be a battle. It cannot be a battle and
No.
one being played off the other. But going back to your point is that I think the effect that a male has in the household has a very um, impactful presence on the direction. But to Thomas's point, the outcome you can't guarantee. But as
Right.
far as the direction and the expectation, as far as
Yeah.
discipline, structure in the household, whether you're boy or girl, has to come. Uh, when I say primarily, I think I'm trying to make it sound good for everybody else, but I think really at the end of the day, that father that has to be present in that household to set the tone of the household. And again, if there is any ambiguity and confusion in the household, we starting off on the wrong foot, especially
Yeah.
in a black household.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I definitely agree with you. My scenario assumes the man is there,
Yes, sir. Right.
Yeah.
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 And
Yeah.
being a man. Yeah.
Right. Right.
But
Keep throwing that in there.
But are you all saying, are you all indirectly saying, whether inductively or deductively, however you want to look at it, should fathers prepare to be parents more than the mother if our impact can be more lasting, if our impact is most potent? should we be the ones that are actually reading the parenting books? Should we be the ones actually actually implementing some form of system in our homes when it comes to how children are parented? Should that be totally on the man? Do you think? I don't
I
know.
think again,
Yeah.
my perspective and the things that I've traversed through. I think in that case, I think the journey is a mutual journey. In
Okay.
my sense of the thought is that even in a business, a corporation, you can have a CEO, a head honcho president, but we all need to go through the training. We all need to go through the procedures and agree to the
Yeah.
terms, the bylaws, and what we're going to follow in order to conduct this organization, which we call family. So I
Yeah.
think, and also you need to understand your role, right?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
I can lead. I need you also to stay within your lane. And
Yeah.
so I think that as parents, male and female, need to take that journey together. I think both have the ability to bring things to the table with regards to information on how to parent. But we need to also, going back to the last question and reeling that in connection with this, is that the mother needs to understand that the father is going to have and should have a greater impact on both kids. If we're talking boy and girl, but at the same time, we need to go through this journey together.
I think that's one of the reasons why black families struggle the way they do. If you look at our counterparts, whether they be Asian or Caucasian or Indian or whatever they may be, there's a structure, there's a social structure that is
Mhm.
accepted from the very beginning. They understand that the man is the foundation of the family, and he's given the grace to be that. In our communities, it's been hijacked by so many other program systems and everything else that is backwards, where all we do is celebrate the matriarch, which in some circles that is actually the proper order. There are some circles that believe in the matriarchal type of focus when it comes to family. But as we know it and as we're accustomed to, a lot of the times the man isn't given that grace to be that. He isn't given that opportunity to really be a man in the home.
Yeah.
Even when it comes to punishing their sons, a lot of the times they'll be told you did too much, you're going too far, or you're too hard, and things like that. So a lot of times our parenting isn't I guess isn't roadblocked by the relationship with the child. It's more navigating the nuances on how am I going to get this over with my wife or with
Mhm.
the
Right.
mother of the child. And I think that can be a hindrance also, when sometimes your co-parent actually hinders your ability to parent properly because they might not agree with the way you do
Yeah.
so. I think we should do a better job as men in vetting the women we deal with.
Yeah. I was about to say that's a pre-marriage discussion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Right. Most
It's
people
just
ain't for you.
yeah, exactly. And just to pause again for the audience on at least my end of the channel, Dedrick Mathis says that to complement, not compete with raising kids, whether the man is present in the house or not. Now, or not.
there goes that
Now, that's the
cooperate that
piece that
cooperation.
our women struggle with.
Well,
There's a
you know
whole,
what?
go
I
ahead.
think our brothers struggle with that too, and I think a
I
lot
can
of
hear
a
you on
lot
that.
of times, a lot of the times when we have these tumultuous relationships with our baby mama or whatever you want to call them,
Hmm.
it hinders our ability to parent, even
Right.
to the point of us being able to see them or talk
Right.
to them or communicate with them,
Mhm.
and that's another hurdle. And I think a lot of times when that happens, many men back away. Many men just say, "Forget it."
Right.
Instead of trying to find another way to parent in a way where your child can still maintain somewhat of a normal life, even though their circumstance isn't normal. So
Yeah.
I think a lot of our brothers need to have those support systems and those individuals that they can relieve themselves of their self-absorption and find influence. Find somebody, I'm saying, who can teach you how to be effective, even though your circumstance is crazy. I think that's something that we have to do better as men, and even if it be offering of ourselves, of our experiences. I'm doing that right now through I'm counseling a couple brothers who are having some issues in their relationships, and I think I found out that I've been most impactful when I've shared my story,
Hmm.
my
Mhm.
naked story, not
Speak
me,
Yeah.
from experience. Yep.
telling the real truth of how, I
Use
had those
yourself.
Yeah, those days of depression, those days of wanting to give up, those days of feeling like, man, ain't nothing gonna work out. I know, we've been there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think if we're able to open up our lives and share that with our brothers, they would be more well equipped, like he said, to complement and not compete. I found that to be more successful in my relationship with my ex-wife and my children. I started out having struggles internally on how to deal with it because I had my hangups about our relationship together. But then there's a certain level of maturity and understanding had to come over to say, hey, man, you got kids, one's 7 and one's 4 months. Like, you got a long time to parent in the situation. You know what I mean?
Right.
You can't
Yeah,
spend the
yeah.
next, these next couple decades of your life, being bitter and upset about something that happened, that has nothing to do with the children. And so we have to come to that level of wisdom and maturity, manhood, to say, all right, I'm not going to fight the situation. I know she might be a problematic baby mama or whatever, or our situation might not be the best. Let me find a way to complement this situation. So at the end of the day, my children or my child, can still understand my parents love me. I don't know. That's just the way I think about it.
I
I
forgot
think
to give a shout out for Cedric Montgomery. He's been following us, Mr. Wall Street himself,
Mr.
and
Chopping,
he's on the Black and the Bold channel. He does make some good points. Looking towards the female side of that is that we got to stop letting society say what's best for us, i.e., your rent can be this low if there's no man in the house. Your financial benefits can be this high if there's no support from a man. Basically, have more kids, get more benefits.
Yeah, and there are a lot of women. I don't know if y'all did either of y'all see the social media post where the girl was like, "I got." Did y'all?
Uh-oh, you broke up.
Yeah, say it again.
Am I back now?
Yeah,
I'm back now. Yeah.
All right. Did you all see the social media post with the girl? I don't know if it's social media or YouTube. She said the reason why I have 6 baby daddies. Did y'all see that?
nah.
No.
There's a reason. Rationalization.
She came, she had a rationalization behind it. She came and she knew how much she would receive financially from each man. So she had already kind of predicted what her financial income or what her financial return would be by having additional baby daddies. See, this is problematic. And
this is where we're using our power for evil versus good. Because if you are that savvy, you should be running a business with your family for your family.
She's just playing the system. You know what I'm saying? This is what happens when you're a pawn in the game. Yeah. And you didn't make the game or nothing like that. Things are the house is burning around you. And somebody out in the street can't tell you, don't drink no water. It's just she's just rocking with the program. You know,
and I like what you're saying. Pawn in the system, because that pawn is causing heartache for that team.
Yeah,
how we can operate as bishops, rooks, and knights, and all that. You can't even. The whole team messed up because the pawn's messing up.
Because the pawns, the pawns are messing up.
That's true.
But going back to how we're holding men accountable, and I agree with all that. But I think part of the rescue plan, we got to put the woman in there too, because, and I know from being a man, women got a lot more power than they think.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Because the man's gonna kind of be like, okay, I'm having a problem with my point of view because I'm getting rejected way more than normal. You know what I'm saying? So you're gonna change, And these women that have been raised in better households than some of the other men, than men that they're dating, then I think it's up to them to be a little bit patient with the man. I'm not saying let him just run rampant and ridiculous. But if you're a woman and you know that this man has the potential to be a good man, he's almost got it, he's rough around the edges, and work with him a little bit, don't nag him all the time, put him down and stuff and say, hey, you should have got up early looking for a job or something like that. That kind of feel your way a little around, because the black man has been through a ton of stuff and it's steady coming, and it's getting worse and it's getting worse and it's getting worse. Yeah. And by the same token, I'm not saying that you know, you stop dating while your man is in prison for 10 years and you send him the little bit of money you got on his books. And because you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying, you
Yeah,
know, unless he went to jail because he was protecting you and your kids. Now that may be a little different, but that's not
true,
the average guy. You know what I'm saying?
true.
He's out doing
Yeah,
something he ain't got no business doing.
yeah.
Not all the time, but 9 times out of 10. You know what I'm saying? And so I think the women need to get things a little more into perspective. Come to the middle of the road there. You know, not be very harsh on the man, but also, you know, be a little nurturing too. You know,
Yeah.
it would help men get themselves a little more leveled out and adjusted.
Well, OG, I mean, like I said, you've been giving me a bunch of alley oops. I think I got the dream team already set up. You said here's another setup. You just roll me right into it. And the question is, are men complimented and validated enough? When you talked about, having that woman that's going to have the compassion or give you the grace to grow, give you the grace to become. There are a lot of women, the whole idea of marriage, you need the man needs to be already set. Now, all of your ducks need to be in a row before you get married. But the woman you marry, she's given the room and the latitude to really be loose, to not really be settled. She doesn't necessarily have to be financially set. She doesn't have to be savvy in any way. Seems like there's no real standards for what a wife should be, because wife and husband is now so ambiguous to this point. But I mean, I don't know. I are men complimented and validated enough? I don't think we are. I think for most of the for the most part, we've been broken down into a couple of things. We are a wallet. We are a sex toy, and we're needed conditionally when danger is around. Whether your tire's flat, your yard need to be cut, you need something fixed around the house, or something like that. Society has compartmentalized men into those three categories for the most part.
Yeah.
And the validation piece is nowhere to be found. Matter of fact, anytime we stand up and be a man, we're shamed in any way. So I have to ask you that question. Are men complimented and validated enough? Are we affirmed enough as men?
No, that we're not. But the goalpost keeps moving. You know
Yeah,
what I'm
that's
saying?
true. Yeah, that's true.
Every time you try and get it together, now you got another thing you got to deal with, and we expect a woman to validate us when they don't know what a man is. So how can you expect a woman to validate something she don't know, don't have a clue how you're supposed to be,
Yeah,
And once
yeah,
again, I think that goes to the alpha men who are aware enough and intelligent enough to step into a relationship and be able to assess the situation and understand what role he has to play and still maintain his alpha level. Now, the men who are not alpha men, they're always going to have more problems, or they're not as aware or as educated, or if they're very young,
mhm,
growing up in
yeah,
Valdosta, you're just not going to have the experiences and the tools and the wherewithal and everything that you need, or the examples, as if you grew up like I did in Harlem. It's just not
yeah,
going to happen. So your
yeah,
environment plays a huge role on how you react and move in a relationship. And I
yeah,
think another thing where men kind of fall short is because of society, and women do the same thing. We've been conditioned for marriage.
yes,
And
yes,
and now that I'm over 50 years old and I look back on a half century of life, and I had to realize that 99% of the people that have been in my life for 50 years are not here now.
mm-hmm,
So it seems contradictory for the system to tell me that I'm supposed to pick somebody and make them stay with me for the rest of my life, when that is
yeah,
just not how life has been. It's not how it works.
yeah,
And you don't have to just take me for an example. In my observations, you can just look at the statistics.
yeah,
50% of marriages dissolve. The
yeah,
50% that are left, half of them don't want to be married, but they have assets and stuff, so they have to stay married
yeah.
because the economics of it would just be a disaster.
What
And
is
then
it,
you got
70? What is it, 70 or 80% of the second marriages are end up in divorce? I think it's something like that. Is that right?
yeah, it gets higher as you go on. I
Yeah,
mean, because marriage just ain't for some people. They're just never gonna figure it out, On
yeah,
top of not being able to find that one person out of probably a million that could probably be anywhere in the world that would stay with you for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, to speak to that, and I totally agree. I totally agree that we were marketed something that we were not a school to be able to maintain or to acquire.
Right.
Marriage, if you look at the history of it, it wasn't born out of spirituality. It was born out of economics. It was born
Yes, it was.
from out of government. There were only certain people in the actual kingdom that could marry, because married people were people who had assets, people who were doing business, people who were
Mm-hmm.
making moves, peasants and farmers and people like that. They married. They would pass along a little sheet or a shirt or a family heirloom, and that was their agreement. But I think, like, again, the marriage piece. Shoot, if we even look at the whole idea of diamonds, I mean, that was just introduced in the teens or the 20s, 30s, somewhere
Mm-hmm.
up in there,
When the
when
De
they came
Beers
up.
took over.
The De Beers family, when that came all about, the diamonds is a woman's best friend and all this kind of stuff. And then they came up with this backdoor equation about, the diamond should be the 3 months salary and all. It was a ploy to sell diamonds. That's
It's
all
a
it was.
marketing campaign. That's
Yeah,
all it
that's
is.
all it was. It was propaganda, to build a business from nothing, from valueless stones. And so, I mean, just all of that, when you look at how the pressures of society really set the parameters on how we look at marriage in comparison to how they look at it in Mecca or China or wherever, it's just
The Jewish community.
exactly. It's very different. And I just think a lot of us aren't prepared mentally, physically, and spiritually for marriage and financially
Mm-hmm.
when it comes, to marriage. And let men understand that marriage is a business transaction. If you read it in the law books, it is
Yep.
nothing more than a corporation institution that has come together to mingle their funds and do business under one name. That's what
Mhm.
that really is.
That's what it is.
Marriage,
Mhm.
according to the government, has nothing to do with I love you for the end of my life. That ain't got nothing to do with it.
Nothing to do with it. And
And
that's
that is
why it
why
doesn't work.
exactly. And that's why when you look at it in our communities, and then when you look at a Jeff Bezos or you look at a Bill Gates or you look at a Trump or somebody else that lives a different total life, they look at marriage different. They handle it different. How we didn't even know that Bill Gates had a whole girlfriend the entire time he was married, and his wife was cool with it. She understood because because every race and culture doesn't look at marriage the same way. The
Right.
people who look at marriage in a really, really strict way are religious people. They
Yes.
look at it as a God punishment and all that kind of stuff, and we can lean into that. But at the end of the day, no, when it comes to even men in marriage, men that are married aren't even complimented enough and validated enough. I don't think women understand that we're humans too.
Hmm.
I've
And
had
I
to have
don't
this
think,
conversation before. I don't think women understand that we have human emotions too. We want to be
yeah.
loved and appreciated and validated as well.
Mhm. Yeah,
Um,
definitely. Hmm. And
you
I
know,
think men need to realize, back to what I was saying, and I've been in females' lives for 6 months, 2 years, 3 years, and I can go back to 19. Oh wow, maybe like 84
mhm,
to one of my first girlfriends, all the way up to now, and it's maybe only one or two out of all these years to where I still don't have their phone numbers and still don't talk to them on a regular basis. Or regular basis means, if they got married for 5 years, I didn't bother them, but they
yeah.
usually end up getting divorced and they just hit me back up. You know what I'm saying? But
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, but they're not in the same town. Some of them are, I'm saying New York, California. They're ones in Alabama. But see, the relationship was still there, and
Yeah.
I took the best part of our relationship, and we parted ways amicably, friends, maintained the good relationship, and
Yeah.
moved on. Now, had I tried to marry any one of those females, it'd have been a disaster. Eventually, it would have been a disaster
But you know
because we
what?
weren't really compatibly yoked.
That's true.
We weren't
So
compatibly yoked.
so are you so can it would it be I guess safe to say that are some men getting married to get validation?
I think they fall into the same trap that the women are. Yes, because we're programmed to not think critically about things, and we're not
Absolutely.
educated about
Yeah.
what you were just saying. What was the original intent for marriages? Kings and queens married each other.
Yeah.
Kings and queens gave the king would give his daughter over to the prince of a country right next to
And
him so that they could
and
form
would
an
and would
alliance,
and would pay a bride price.
and would pay a bride price. And that
Yes,
had
sir.
nothing to do with love. They didn't even know each other, had never seen each other to the wedding day, and the king and queen didn't care.
Yep.
We got so caught up into the marriage part of it, into the societal common era marriage part of it, that we don't
Yeah.
really understand it. And it's a
Yeah.
spiritual thing. When you're around somebody that you really have a good vibe with, that's that good vibe. Your spirit and your chemistry is talking to each other. Still
Yeah.
does not necessarily mean that that's somebody that's going to be with you for 50, 60 years.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, you're supposed to identify that, grab onto it, make the best of it, exchange what the two of you need at the time, let it play itself out. And as soon as things start getting a little hairy or something doesn't feel right, just part friends.
Yeah.
And we would avoid so many divorces.
But a lot of people would push back on that
Yeah,
because
I know.
they would say, okay, well, because I heard a pastor say something a couple of weeks ago, and it makes sense. He was saying that a lot of times in relationships, since we have such a thwarted idea or view of relationships, a lot of times we go in and out of relationships and we end up being able to perfect the act of divorce because anytime anything happens, we can easily detach ourselves and move on. That's true. But I
I got
think
you.
I think if men were equipped better on how to deal and understand women as they grow as children, and this is something that I always share with a lot of men that I mentor. I encourage them to read Proverbs on a regular basis. Proverbs says at least 5 or 6 times, 4 to 5 times at least, talks about the danger of dealing with the wrong kind of woman. And when he was given that information and he was preparing his son, they was preparing his son for the next level. He was letting them know, be careful about dealing with these strange women. Be careful about dealing with these women who got slick talk. Be careful dealing with these women that have, he said, charm is deceitful and beauty is sparing. You're gonna find a beautiful woman anywhere you go. So don't get caught up. He said, and also don't get caught up on how charming she is. It's a whole lot of things that I don't think boys are taught on how to deal with women, the psychosis of women, the pathology of women. And a lot of times we get overwhelmed by the physicality and the thing we want that goes us playing offense again.
And
We do a lot of
society
that
knows
offense
that.
stuff. Exactly.
That's why we're in the twerking era.
There you go. There you go.
They
There you
know
go.
that.
Bands will make a dance. Now you do know that, don't you?
I know bands will make a dance. Not personally speaking, though, of course.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know about that. I'm just saying. I mean, I heard it on the radio a couple times.
Yeah, I saw somebody.
But I mean, those are things I think that we have to make sure that we purposely involve our sons in. We do a lot. We do a lot of raising our daughters, but we don't. I don't think we raise our sons enough. I don't think we equip our sons enough to actually be effective alone. I don't think we purposely prepare them in private to be successful as individuals outside of a group, outside of a team, outside of be able to stand on your own when nobody else agrees with you. Are you man enough to hold fast to what you believe, but give yourself room to be corrected if you're wrong? Those are the types of things that I've been teaching my son and other men. I don't think a lot of us didn't get that directly over and over and over and over again. We might have gotten it here or there, but to have someone purpose in our life, making sure that we are complimented, that we are validated. Because I want to say this, I think I would venture to say it's important for us to teach our sons to only accept compliments and validation from the women we give our attention to. She has to validate us. She has to compliment us, because if she doesn't, then that means she's overlooking a great part of who we are and what we do for them. So should men demand validation and compliments from their partner instead of it just expecting it? Because
That's a
if we
yes.
because they say expectations are nothing but but future pitfalls. It's just
Yeah.
something for you
Set up.
to set yourself up later to be disappointed. So should we demand that if I'm going to be in a relationship, you must compliment me, you must validate me? That's what they do to us.
Yep.
So should we demand that in return? This is our last question for the evening, unless you all got something.
It's a fair demand, brother. It's a fair expectation. It's a complementary system that we live in. We all are human. You're a female, I'm a male. We're both humans. We have expectations and we have emotions and feelings that need to be tended to also. So we're not rocks, we're not robots. We are effective human beings also. So the fact is that again, you go to a job, everything is correlated to business and to business employees, etc. Again, if that's the case, the male employees shouldn't get kudos and compliments at work because they're men. They don't need compliments. So clearly, y'all should operate the same way in a marriage or relationship.
Yeah, that's my thoughts.
I don't know, because I kind of look at those forms of compliments as like the
circumstantial,
kind of like the trophy syndrome.
Yeah, I got you.
I don't want anyone to compliment me for anything that I'm just supposed to be doing. Compliments come into when you do something above and beyond. So if I'm in a relationship and I'm being a man, and that's all I'm being is a man, I'm in my role, I'm doing my job, you'll never have to compliment me. Now if I'm doing something above and beyond, you got 4 kids and ain't none of them mine, and I'm raising 4 kids and my 2 kids. Oh yeah, I might want to compliment every now and then. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, like I said, we can always differ in everything, but I think that it's very common that people need, whether I think we can be semantically different in what we call it, in the sense of whether it's compliments or I don't know if it's words of encouragement, whatever else we can
affirmation,
use synonyms to make it.
everything.
But I think that it's very healthy, in other words, that to compliment, hey, husband or wife, I like the way you look today, or hey, the way that you handled the kids back then. These are basically just forms of affirmation that show that you're moving in the right direction before it becomes, I need a compliment for them 4 kids. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes it's just to keep doing what you're doing because I see you type things.
Okay, all right. So hold that right there, because we made the distinction between stepchildren and our own biological children twice, which is a great deal of our community, because if you look at our counterparts compared to us, it seems as if the only thing Black men are offered a lot of the times is single mothers, or we're the only ones that are more apt to accept them when you look at this, the data. So if we're coming into a young lady's life who is a single mother, should we expect additional more compliments from her and validation from her just because we're taking on that whole feat of raising another child that doesn't belong to us? Or should our respect level still be the same and nothing change? Because if you listen to a lot of the commentary our sisters give us, a lot of our sisters don't give us that extra level of respect and appreciation, because I don't think a woman realizes, I can't find a better word, but it's not a favor, but I'm going to use it for the lack of a better term. The favor that we're giving them by actually being a man who's willing to step into that role when she essentially kind of has a husband, because she has a baby father, the father of the child, who's going to always be interacted in your personal lives, for the rest of that child's life. So should we be expecting an additional extra level of appreciation and validation by coupling with a single mother, and vice versa? Just they may not have children, but we may have children.
I then kind of lean back over it, brother OG, in that case, that I think there's just that threshold that there's a certain minimal level of encouragement that needs to take place. And if you're taking on the child of another parent or whatnot, or another biological parent, then maybe every now and again, but I don't think it needs to be so much additional to that respect, that you just doing what you got to do.
Just
but
noticeable enough. like you were
Yeah,
saying.
yeah, yeah. Just noticeable enough. I like that. Right, right.
No,
right.
I think it might need to be a little bit more than noticeable because I mean, because having to deal with raising my own kids, you know,
Uh,
with my kid's mother, and then having a mixed family where there's two kids that have the dad in their life, and then two other kids that are also not mine who don't have the dad in their life, and then I have two kids and I'm that dad, and I'm trying to be everybody's dad and dealing. You know what I'm saying?
I can hear
Those
you.
types of
Yeah.
relationships are so chaotic, and there's so many different head games going on that for a man to step into that type of environment and try and make everything work is so far and of beyond what I would normally do with just my two kids that somebody probably needs to say something, you know.
Well, see, that's my point. That's my point because if you look at the
Right.
number of children, a lot of times the average is about 2 children. When you have a single mother, when you look at the average,
Hmm.
and so it's like I think that we should receive that extra level of appreciation because you are overextending yourself into another, into someone else's garden. You know what I'm saying? I've taken care of mine, but now I'm going to have to reach over to yours. Now I'm going to have to learn a whole new personality, a whole new dynamic. You know what I'm saying? I got a whole new relationship. I got to find a way to, wiggle my way in between you and your father, or whatever the situation may be, and still be neutral. There's a lot of emotional energy. There's a lot of,
It is.
there's a lot that goes in, when the man has to take on the additional responsibilities when there are other children involved.
Never a
And
dull moment.
I don't think a lot of our sisters really understand that, because a lot of times they'll tell us, "Well, you knew what you were getting yourself involved in." That's really
Ah,
not.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that you all know that's been a
that's
response.
that's the wrong direction to
Yeah,
go there.
exactly.
We're
That's
Yeah,
talking about
we'll
I,
see
competition.
how long that lasts.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, right.
exactly.
Goodness.
And a lot of that has ended up in a lot of divorces, a lot of broken families because of that. And I just, to me, I think it goes both ways, because just as I have children. If I were to get with a young lady who didn't have children, I would appreciate her, to a different level, because now she's taken on the responsibility of a plus mom, a plus one mom, or whatever you want to call it, and that does require, an extra level of commitment, in the process. But I just don't think men get that same level of appreciation. I think it's, this is what you signed up for, this is what you got to do, because we've seen many videos on social media where a guy would have a child with a young lady who may have two or three or four of the kids, and she'll get mad because the guy didn't buy the other three children Jordans when he bought his biological child Jordans. You see what I'm saying? And it's
Yeah.
like they have this level of expectation of us that's unrealistic or unbalanced or even unfair, I guess.
You have
But
to think about every little thing. Like you said, you
yeah,
can't take anything for granted in these
yeah,
mixed relationships.
yeah.
Well, with my two kids, I bought one Jordans. The other one say, "Where my Jordans?" I just say, "Shut up," But that's just that may not work.
but
It's
that
not.
but that
Well,
does
it's like I think it was Chris Rock, old stand up, early 2000s or something. He was talking about how women need compliments, right? And so it's like, tell your mama she look good. Tell your mama you like the cooking tonight. Tell your mama this. Tell your mama. We don't get thank you, daddy, for the lights.
We don't get nothing on the toilet paper.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah, yeah. Hey, thank you for changing the oil and saving us $60.
right.
Cutting
Yeah,
the grass and saving us 50,
Thank you
60,
for them
$75.
new tires on the car. Thank you, daddy.
yeah. All
Going
that
outside
stuff
and
you see
plugging
for
and
Mother's
changing the
Day.
brakes.
I ain't getting nothing.
Exactly.
Nothing.
When Father's Day, you get that same old tie,
Little
wallet,
tie, yeah.
and a mug.
Some
You're like, come on,
cufflinks.
man.
I ain't got no
Right.
shirts.
Yeah, y'all got to do better than this. Come on. I got so many. I ain't going to never drink this much coffee. Every year, y'all keep giving me a dang mug. Come on, man.
Right.
I got so many ties in my house right now. I know I got at least 100, 150 ties. I know I do. I know I do. I listen. I ain't gonna need no more ties until the day I die. I got plenty. I'm good. It's just the very
Oh,
fact. A
man.
lot of times, like I said, a lot of times, the appreciation it never goes both ways. That seesaw isn't a level seesaw, and a lot of times we just get overlooked. That's why I think a lot of men die in silence, That's why a lot of men, if you look, a lot of men, especially in our communities, when they get older, they get quiet and they go in their corner. The women, they still inviting their girls over. They taking over the kitchen, having a good time. That man somewhere watching TV by himself. Because I just think we get used to being second fiddle. I think we get used to being overlooked, and for some odd reason, we still
quiet
find
into the
strength
night.
in being ignored.
Yeah.
What's that?
I said, do not go quiet into the night.
Oh yeah, walking off in the fog. You know what I'm saying? Like what are you doing? But I just think it's problematic, and I just in my opinion, I think men should demand another level of
I think it
wanting.
is. I think you bring a good point that it can be problematic because I think emotionally there's a buildup perhaps. I mean, it's you want something and it's just not happening, or you yearn for something probably correctly and it's not happening, and you may not even know that's the reason for the frustration. But I think that over time, as anything, if it's not dealt with, it's going to end up being that balloon factor, and at some point it's going to pop and burst
Yeah.
or burst.
Yeah, it's rough sometimes. I mean, I've had my ex-wife call me and be like, he's out there again, because one of the baby daddies wanted to show up only when I was at work. So,
Gotcha.
that's not something I would have to worry about, if I
Yeah.
wouldn't, if I wasn't in a relationship where there were different baby daddies, or even one or two or however many it was. Now I gotta address, I didn't just marry you and your 4 kids. I married you, 4 kids, and 4 baby daddies,
Yeah, and that gets overlooked a lot. I
Yeah,
think
we
that gets
nipped that in the
overlooked.
bud, but still,
Yeah,
it's not something that you signed up for. You did,
yeah,
but you don't want to be in that position where you're in that
yeah,
type of conflict.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. I think, and that's one thing that I've been doing with my daughter, and I think that's something that I'm sure we would all encourage our brothers to do the same. Is when it comes to complimenting and validating a man, I think it's just as important as it is complimenting and validating a woman. We need it. We don't necessarily ask for it, but to have it would be only a plus for the women in our lives. That
Yeah.
when we actually experience appreciation and validation from the woman who we sacrifice for, the woman who we dedicate our monogamy to, and all that other stuff, I think that is deserving of validation and being complimented. And I just think that moving forward, when we're talking about restoring the black family, or reestablishing a certain standard, it should include validating your black brothers, validating the men in your life, validating your brothers and your uncles and your fathers and your stepfathers and your coaches and your mentors. Men, especially black men, we don't get appreciated enough, especially from our sisters, and especially on a national level. So I would definitely encourage that. Brothers, if if you're not being validated or complimented by the woman in your life, you need to have a conversation. You need to sit her down and figure out what's going on, because there's no way in the world your relationship could last if you as a man never complimented or validated your woman.
Mm.
You know that. And so the things that you expect,
Mm.
things that she expects from you, you should be expecting from her, because I think Brother Black said in the very beginning, this is an equal opportunity exchange. I think. You know what I'm saying? So, if I'm going to sacrifice, if I'm going to get up in the middle of the night with somebody knocking on the door, you want me to jump up and be this courageous Superman? When I need something from you, I need you to be jolly to the wheel too.
Yep.
I'm just saying, it keeps us from being oblivious in our relationships, which a lot of men are. As long as we're doing what they want us to do, we'll stay right there. But we hadn't put no demands on her. And I think we need to start putting demands on our women in order for us to get back to this level of commitment that's required. But that's just my thoughts. But all right, fellas, I mean, do y'all have any other closing thoughts, anything? I mean, this has been an amazing conversation. Do we have anybody that may have added anything in the chat or anything before we get out of here?
Not on my end, as far as lately. Just era, I was definitely laughing at some of the stuff, that probably that Chris Rock thing. But I think from a closing perspective, I think this was well needed and necessary. I think Thomas just said in the beginning, how important it is for Black men to have a platform such as this to speak on, and just echo some feelings and have sounding board. iron sharpening iron, and in some respect to it, but just basically for us to get some things out there and have a community where we can be heard to a degree of each other and learn from each other. I think that we have an opportunity as we go forward to get a diverse group of people to dial in, perhaps, and then we got our panel here, and we bring up some subjects that other men might have not even thought of talking about. Maybe you yearning for a small group, to talk with and kind of share some
Yeah,
things
man.
and get off your chest.
Yeah,
I think
man.
this is important.
Yeah. That's good, right? I didn't even think about that, but yeah. But, brother OG, you got something?
No, I don't really have nothing. I just wanted to thank you guys for bringing us all together. Like I said in the beginning, I think that this is important. Hopefully, it gets a little bit bigger, and because who knows how many of us are out there with no one to talk to? Because
Yeah. Yeah.
being a man is a lonely job sometimes.
Yes,
And I'm
sir. Yes,
old enough to
sir.
know that. A lot of people, they have somebody to
Hey,
turn to and discuss things with, and a lot of times all we have is a mirror. And that's it.
that's it. Sometimes it's a thankless job, right?
It's a thankless job. Yeah, yeah. And there's not a lot of help out there because there's no granddads around there sitting in the chair, somebody that's got, 90 years of experience that we can go to and just say, hey, this is what's going on. What do you think?
Yeah.
They're just not around. Even the big mamas are going away.
Yeah. That's true.
They're just getting younger and younger and younger.
Yeah.
And the big mamas, that all their experiences is just trying to deal with all the mess of the last few decades. So they don't even really have the same experiences that they had 50 to 100 years ago.
Yeah. That's true. That's definitely true. Before I give my last and final comments, I didn't see Brother Q Thomas was on. Brother Q came on and he definitely gave us some fire comments early in the day. I don't see how I missed that, but thank you, Brother Q, for logging on. He gave us some really good information, and we encourage all of you brothers, moving forward. We're going to be here every Sunday. We may just make the official time 2 p.m. I'm not really sure yet, but we're still working out some of the kinks. But we definitely want you guys to be on this on the live with us. And if you want to join the conversation, if you want to be on camera, listen, this is not just for us 3 or 4. I think we can have a total. How many can we have on? I know I can have 6 on my side. How many can you have on your side?
I was about to say also, consider, next time we flip it up, this from the black and the bold access, we might be able to get more,
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
So we
have to look into it. Yeah, we can get more.
yeah, so we
Don't be shy, in other words.
Yeah, definitely don't be shy. Come on, man. We want to have a conversation. We definitely want y'all's input. Listen, guys, Brother Dwayne, Brother Thomas, this has been therapeutic for me. This is something I've been wanting to do for a very long time. Brother Dwayne and I have been doing this, Lord have mercy. I don't know how long. I don't know how many decades we've been doing this. We get together, man, and we just talk. And it's therapeutic for us. And so we just wanted to open up what he and I do to our circle, because we found out there's victory in council. So we wanted to make sure we had some other brothers that can involve their conversation, implement their comments, check us on a few things, make us think about some other things, whatever it might be. We thank you all for being here with us on this afternoon. So this 2 hours and 17 minutes has been therapeutic for me. Again, thank you all so much for being with us. This is going to be the place where we're going to build some amazing men. We want you to invite your sons. If you've got a son in college, if you've got a son away in the military, I don't know, whatever they may be, invite them to the party so they can come in and really, really get this good wisdom, because we're going to save them a whole lot of headache and a bunch of money, and we're going to save them a bunch of time. Well, we're going to give them some of our war stories so they can definitely blaze the trail for the next generation. But we're getting ready to get out of here. This is the Lion's Den. This is another part of the Black and the Bold podcast. This is just for the brothers, where we come in and we roar loud and we spare not. So thank you all, brothers, for your time. Listen, if you have not gone to our page, our Facebook page, our Instagram, our YouTube, subscribe to all of those. Please hit the notification button because we're getting ready to drop some content on a regular basis because we're about to start a new family and a new tribe and a new movement. So love you all. Thank you all so much. We will see you all again next Sunday, hopefully maybe around 2:00, so we can get back into more of some of this Lions Den talk. We'll see you here every Tuesday at 8:30 for the Black and the Bold podcast. Lions Den every Sunday, and then we got some stuff for the sisters coming up too. That's bubbling up, so that'll be rolling pretty soon. But love y'all. We'll see y'all next time. Appreciate it, and remember, stand on your square. Believe what you believe, and speak loudly. And don't let nobody push you off of that square. You know what I'm talking about, Mr. McIntyre.
Yes, indeed.
Stand on that square. You know what I'm talking about. We'll see y'all next time. Love y'all to
All
life.
right.
It's Back in the Bowl. Lions Den talk. See y'all next time. Peace.
All right.
We out.
Peace.